Hey, record loving friends, this is Brian from Tokyo Record Style. I just want to take a break in the middle of my day because I want to acknowledge this awesome new t-shirt that I got from the JICO organization, JICO, JICO, who makes the Omnia Burger, the Omnia cartridges. They're a cartridge and stylus maker from Japan, and they've been around for a really long time. And I just wanted to send out a really big thank you for this really cool T-shirt. They had like a summer sweepstakes for a T-shirt, and I won. So cool! I got to win a T-shirt, and I just wanted to talk about cartridges for a little bit. I don't really know. I'm not a big cartridge head, but I thought I would just explain a little bit about cartridges and why they're kind of talk about why they're kind of amazing. I think this is going to be a really basic explanation, but basically, maybe I should start by saying I grew up with a Victrola, like a gramophone, one of those sort of cornucopia, like horn things that's like old school record players that plays 78s, which is essentially a 12-inch disc. It might be, I'm not sure if it's exactly that size. It looks like a record, but it's not made of vinyl. It's made of shellac, which is like, vinyl's like plastic and shellac is sort of like, I think, dried paint almost. It's like it cracks where vinyl will bend and is quite a bit more malleable. But we had one of these in the house, and you might not know, but there's kind of two kinds of these old school record players. One of the kind is almost looks like a turntable, like our modern day turntable, and it has a horn that comes out of it, like this big brass cornucopia style horn that comes out of it. And the other kind is called a Victrola. There might be a number of different brands, but the one that we grew up with was called Victrola. I assume Victor from the maker Victor, and essentially it's like a piece of furniture. It's this big cabinet. It looks like a chest of drawers, a little bit, and it actually has this. Ours was a beautiful antique, like mahogany style reddish wood finish, very beautiful, and the top opens up like a what do they call it, like a vanity mirror, sort of like the top opens up and the turntable's right there. There's a turntable right there, and it's got a couple of gizmos all around it, and then underneath you open the cabinet, and the cabinet looks like there's 5 or 10 little shelves, but it's actually like a speaker. It's the same idea as the horn that comes out the top, except it goes through the thing and it comes out the cabinet on the bottom. And below that, there's another 2 set of doors, and that's like a cabinet for storing your records. Now, I grew up with this thing, and we fired it up every now and again, and I found it really amusing. I couldn't tell you if I could remember a single, 78 that came from that collection, but it was mostly like big band and early jazz stuff, and it sounded like old-timey music to me. I never listened to it for the songs that I knew or recognized from it. I listened to it just because it was just such a novelty, this crazy contraption. And I remember the day very specifically when I figured out how it worked. I was not a kid. I was a young adult, and I remember looking at the needle. And essentially, like, I think my grandparents had one of these too, but the top of it had a couple little like cabinet, like when you lifted up the cabinet, and there was like a couple of little compartments, and the compartments were like built into the cabinet, very kind of like nice detailing, little brass fixtures, and one of them had like a little thing that you opened up, and inside there was like a little kit, and the kit had like 5 or 6 sticks essentially inside, these little narrow sticks that were needles. And I knew they were needles, and I think there were some metal ones in there, and there was also there was like several bamboo needles in there. I was like, whoa, they're like these little shreds of bamboo. And I think it even said on there like bamboo replacement or something like this. And then I can't remember very well, but I think there was almost like a there was a cutting, I think there was like a cheese grater kind of thing inside it. Like you you took this little piece of wood out of this thing and you ran it through like a little grater and sharpened it, like inside the cabinet. And then you took this little tiny piece of wood and stuck it into this cartridge essentially. And that sort of blew me away. And I remember there was like graphite or something. There was like a modern one, and then there was the bamboo one. And I've since learned that I think the bamboo ones are meant to be much higher fidelity than the metal ones. But the part that really kind of blew me away was that if you can imagine what this old record player looks like, you can imagine this big sort of thing that's almost like the shape of, it's like there's a big wobble, there's a big ballish looking thing, and then a needle that comes over. Even on the big gramophone or on this Victrola style, there's this big thing that comes over and lands on the turntable, on the disc. And I was looking at it, and it looks like, it's kind of like steampunkish, you know? It looks like an old brass telescope or something. And I just noticed that there was like a tube that was coming off of this thing. There was like a tube, like a fat brass, like air conditioner, like water pipe tube coming off of it, And I saw the pipe meander down the tone arm, and it got bigger down the tone arm. And then it like suddenly occurred to me that this thing had like no wires in it whatsoever. Like, I don't know why it had never occurred to me before, because it had this, you know, you wound it up like a clock, like it had a winder on it, and you wound it up, and then it was like, it was spring loaded or whatever. You wound the spring on it tight, and then you let the thing loose, and it would spin until it ran out of steam, and then you'd crank it again. So I knew it didn't have any electricity on it, but when I saw this cartridge and needle going onto with this tube coming off of it, it dawned on me that what was actually happening was like pure analog sound. This needle was vibrating against the grooves, and the vibration was going into this little circular thing. And inside that circular thing was like basically a tambourine, this like drum. There's like a little, you could see it. It was like a car grill, and you could see this little drum inside there. And it somehow, I never took it apart, but you could figure out that it vibrated this little drum thing. And this little drum sent the echo of the sound of the reverberation down this tone arm, like through a tube, you know, through the tone arm and down into the cabinet and then out through the speaker. And my mind was just blown. I just could not believe this was how the record player worked, how the cartridge and tone arm and needle worked. And God, I was just like totally blown away. It was such a cool little discovery. And I was just like, wow, this is pure, like Thomas Edison, early invention, you know, beautiful, really cool engineering. And, you know, later I got into electric turntables, and a turntable really is not, like a modern day cartridge is not that much different than this old style cartridge. I don't know what this old thing is called. It's probably got a special name that I should know. Drum something or other. Diaphragm is probably what it's called. Some microphone diaphragm pickup thing. Or anyway, what a modern day version of that is essentially, it's a diamond. It's a little tiny diamond that's not the expensive kind. It's not the super refined. I don't think so, but it's a tiny little diamond or jewel. Some of them are rubies, and they have different sort of precious gems on the end of these things. And if you look at them, they don't look anything like diamonds. They look like little just black pieces of metal. But they are, I guess, you know, these hard gems, and they somehow adhere them to these little cantilevers that are hovering. And then when those pick up on the various grooves. Now I can't get into the grooves right now, but the grooves are really amazing. Basically, a record has grooves in it, right? And the grooves track the sound of when the artist records and the sound goes out through their voice, it goes into a cutter, and a cutter vibrates on the record and cuts these things. And it's really interesting. The left side of the groove is the left channel, the left speaker, and the right side of the groove is the right channel, the right speaker, which is really crazy in itself. But anyway, what it does is it vibrates this little needle, and this needle, the vibration goes to a magnet and and to a coil, and the coil and the magnet interact with each other. And some of the cartridges have moving magnets, and some of them have moving coils. And audiophiles will debate over which sounds better. I think generally moving coils are more expensive, and don't quote me on that. I forget this detail, but I think moving magnet is the sort of standard one that everybody has. Moving coil has a much lower electric current, and you can get some higher fidelity, but you have to have some high-tech stuff in it. But anyway, it's just this interaction of a coil and a magnet that reverberate against each other, and from that there's a sine wave that comes out of it, a frequency, of amplitude and a frequency that comes out, and that can be read and that can be interpreted into a electric current. That current gets sent out into an amplifier. The amplifier amplifies that current, and the speaker basically takes that current and hears it, and it sends it to a driver, essentially like another thing that interacts with electricity, and it moves, and air pushes this way or pushes that way, and that's what sends out the sound. So it's a really kind of simple signal path. I hope I explained it well enough for you to understand it, but it's kind of not that complicated. It's still mind blowing that some engineer came up with this. I think it was Edison who, I think maybe it was Tesla. Maybe they were fighting over who invented the phonograph, but it's one of these early. I think Edison. The first one was a cylinder type record player, and then I think those were really fragile and they break, and that's when the disc came out. But it's just amazing that we're still using this, needle against a groove that spins around. It's really, really, really cool. So maybe that early Victrola experience and understanding how a Victrola worked really made an impression on me, and it's why I kept collecting records all these years. And so JICO. So the modern day cartridges, I've had a bunch of different ones. You can spend an outrageous, you can literally spend $100,000 on a cartridge. You can also spend $20 for $30 on a cartridge. And the cartridges that I've used over the years are sort of they're like the best of the lowest tier, or I don't even know if they're the best of the lowest tier, but they're in the $200, $300 range. They're not cheap, but they're not expensive. And some cartridges you can like take the needle out and put a new needle in, and some of them are sort of like all encompassing and you can't really take them in and out. And they have to be properly balanced against the counterweight of the tone arm, and there's a lot of thought and calibration that goes into getting them to just right, because if they're too heavy on your record, they kind of actually they tear into the record and they'll dig in, and they'll ruin your records if you play them 100 million times, and eventually they won't keep their fidelity. But so you want to kind of replace your stylus. The stylus is like the needle part. That's the stylus or the needle. Those two names are synonymous. And the cartridge is the thing that has the magnet and the coil on the inside. Actually, I'll grab one here. I actually have. So this part is called the head shell. And it's got 4 little wires underneath it that you can't see, but they're kind of cool, color-coded. And there's the 4 contacts, and this is what picks up. I think 2 of these are left and 2 of them are right. And then this part, the head shell, is the part with the little handle on it that you lift up, and then the part underneath it is the cartridge. And then this little gizmo at the very end is the stylus or the needle. So you can just barely see it on there. I don't know if it's coming into focus, but this part you can actually take off. I should be careful here. This is probably somebody's gonna say, "Oh, that's not the way you should do it." But that's what like a needle looks like, a new stylus, and that's what it looks like when you take it off. So it's kind of, anyway. So the cartridges that I have are, you could say they're kind of like workhorses. They're standard issue. They're the MG44s by Shure. This is the cartridge that came, I don't know if it actually came with the Technics 1200, which is the standard issue workhorse of DJs in the 80s and 90s and still today, but this is a beloved cartridge that I just happened to inherit when I got this turntable. And DJs love this cartridge. I don't really know what, I couldn't tell you really exactly what the characteristics are of this particular cartridge, but I know that like it tracks well, it doesn't tend to jump off the record, which I don't really know if is a characteristic of the cartridge or the needle. It sounds like it would be of the needle, but I think it's just like, it's flat maybe. It's not really overcolored. It was really popular with radio DJs. It's like, was the main, or I should say one of the most famous cartridges. There's lots of famous cartridges, but I love this cartridge so much. I got 2 more of them. So when I go to a DJ set, I'll bring along, this one's like the one that I keep at home, and then I scored a couple others on online, and I'll give a shout out to Stokyo here, Stokyo, Stokyo, who make this really cool case. This case actually glows in the dark, and inside it's got like a nice little, it's just kind of like a 3D, it's not 3D printed, but it's kind of like a nice case, and I've got the cartridges are in here, and if I go DJ somewhere, so I don't ruin the house DJ cartridges, or or somebody else's cartridges, I can use my own, and so that's kind of a Stokyo. These aren't that expensive, you can get them online. And I'll give another shout out while I'm here to this product. I don't know what it is. Loect. I got this from Yodobashi, but the reason I got it is because it has this little stylus cleaner, which I use sometimes to clean the stylus, and I think you're meant to do it from outside to inside towards you. So you can get this to clean the dust off you should always wipe your records clean, and occasionally the dust will, you'll get a hair or a pile of dust on your cartridge, and you'll need to wipe it off with this. Don't mind my Who records here. I'm listening to Quadrophenia today. And I just want to say that here's the company, JICO. Now, I think I know JICO makes some like amazing products, and I think they're doing really well. They've been around for a long, long time, and I should wrap this up, but there's a couple more things I want to share. I have bought this product, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 times. I think there's some formula about how many times how often you should change your styluses. It's a good practice to change it every now and again, and I've listened to, I think it kind of depends on how much music you listen to, but I basically update them like once a year. So I think I bought this particular product maybe 4 or 5 times. And JICO is the Japanese manufacturer, and this is the Shure N44G. And this is their replacement for the Shure M44G. So their replacement is the N44G, and my cartridge is the Shure M44G. Now the Shure discontinued that M44G cartridge a long time ago, but DJs were really saddened that it wasn't continued. So JICO actually makes a replica, essentially. It's probably an improved version of the Shure M44G. I think it's the J447 or J44A, and someday I'm going to get a couple pairs of I'm going to get a pair of those. But JICO, they had a sweepstakes this summer for introducing their new, I think it's Omnia cartridge. I should have brushed up on this, but I think they're releasing new products, and their Instas and their social media is blowing up, and it's going really cool, and they're really dedicated to getting their product more and more known out there. I think they've just had like maybe a little bit of a revival. I think with the big vinyl resurgence in the last 5 or 6 years. They're really going for it. So this says "Have dinner at Omnia Burger." They made a this cool design by, I want to get this right. There's a few more things. So this is let's see here. This was the T-Shirt Sweepstakes, and this was created by the illustrator AIMI Odawara, and I'll link her or his Insta in the comments. And let's see, 10 winners got one of these T-shirts. Big thank you to JICO. I'm really psyched to have been one of them. So the Omnia Burger mouth-watering hamburger takes center stage in this masterpiece infused with AIMI's distinctive touch, a tasty creation of a phono cartridge and vinyl record positioned within the juicy hamburger, uniting the worlds of music and burgers in an unprecedented fast food fashion. I love it. And so, yeah, and I'm really impressed with, I'm really impressed that JICO is appealing to an English-speaking audience as well as a Japanese one. This was really, every time I see more and more, you know, international friendly content, it makes me really happy and encouraged. And then this is the thing that made me really kind of aware, like more aware of JICO. Like I said, I've been buying these replacement styluses for a long time, but on June 1st of this year, I saw a post by JICO_international, their Instagram feed, which I'll also link in the comments. And this was I just thought this was awesome. I haven't reread it since then, but I'm going to read it to you now. It says, to commemorate our 150th anniversary. 150th anniversary. Let me pull this up. This is their, that's going to come through. This is their headquarters in where? I forget where this is. I want to say it's in like, it's down south maybe. It's like, I forget where it is. It's like Shikoku or somewhere over there. But I'm going to go through a few of these pictures real quick. This is maybe I'll be reminded where it is. But I think this is a letter from their CEO, president and CEO, Nakagawa-san. This might be him. I'm not totally sure. But he looks like he's enjoying a record. Got a cool jean jacket on. He's got his cool JICO jean jacket on. I can see he's got some nice speakers there. And this looks like some calibration testing equipment that was maybe from so many years ago. That's maybe the old factory. I don't know if they're still there. There's a cool old Japanese car there. I love the tile roofs. Here's some old school testing equipment. So really encourage, oh, and look at all this. These are all the microscopes, and they're like, you know, isn't that cool? So, but the letter was so amazingly heartwarming. I'm going to read it. It says, today marks the milestone of 150 years since our establishment in 1873. During the Meiji era, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to our valued business partners, stakeholders, employees, and their families for their unwavering support throughout these years. Since our founding, our company has been led by the Nakagawa family, and we have expanded our business operations. Currently, we are in our 65th fiscal period as a corporation. From the Meiji era to the Reiwa era, we have diligently continued our monozukuri, which means craftsmanship, in a rural area of northern Tajima. They're in Tajima. You have to look up where Tajima is. I looked it up. I think might be Kyushu. We have modernized. Do you guys know where Tajima is? Look it up. Find out where Tajima is and tell me. Tajima. We have modernized our manufacturing techniques based on our expertise in sewing needle production to stay current with the times. Sewing needle production, interesting. Our monozukuri process has always involved human hands. Where? Fukuoka. Okay, there you go. It's in Fukuoka. So hello down to Fukuoka, guys. We are sending you a big hello from up here in Tokyo. We have carefully designed our production processes utilizing handmade assembly jigs and machinery that have been in use for over half a century. These tools and machines crafted with ingenuity continue to serve us faithfully to this day. Wow, amazing. Thank God that these machines didn't get like parted out and that they're still, because they would never build them again, you know? So thank goodness that they're still in use. It's like a testament to like Japanese, you know, just, you know, engineering. Let's see. It is unfortunate that modern manufacturing facilities and machinery have become inaccessible black boxes, preventing us from disassembling and repairing them as we did in the past. Totally agree. When asked, what is your company's strength? I proudly answer, our employees. It almost makes me teary-eyed. We have dedicated, long-serving employees who have faced challenges together, and that is something I take great pride in. I often reflect on the number of people who have devoted themselves to this company since its beginning. We stand upon the legacy of those who came before us. Wow, so touching. Moving forward, we will continue our monozukuri with gratitude each day, aiming to contribute to society through the products we manufacture. Yukihiro Nakagawa, President and CEO. Jeez, hashtag JICO, hashtag 150 years, hashtag needles, hashtag legacy, hashtag Japan. I love it. I just absolutely was moved by this post. And I was like, okay, JICO is the JICO, they're the bomb. And you know, the only other manufacturer of cartridges that I've owned, I think, is Grado. Grado is a family-owned business out of New York, Brooklyn, New York, I think. And they make headphones, and I still buy their headphones. And I'm not going to go off here on headphones, but I know that that company was started by their great-grandfather, and he went door to door selling like wooden-made cartridges. And so there's this spirit to cartridge makers and to headphone makers and the audiophile makers that I just want to salute. And JICO is definitely one of those companies, and you guys are an inspiration. So I really, really thank you for this Omnia Burger T-shirt. I got my Soundburger. I got my Soundburger turntable. I'm gonna rock my Soundburger with my Omnia Burger T-shirt and just have fun listening to music and celebrating this amazing resurgence in vinyl. Yay! Okay, guys, thanks so much for listening, and sorry for the long video, and we'll see you next time.